All right then. So I feel like that may be a good segue into the book. Do you like how
The book. Dun, dun, dun.
so there is a book coming out.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you wanna what's gonna be in this book?
So this will be definitely a one of its kind for now, anyway. I'm not aware of anything else out there that has approached the readership from this place. The I really, what I was seeing in my role as guide was that there would come a time um, in the not too distant future where there would be more people who would be ready for the level of teaching that I can bring. And that at that point, it would be impossible for me to facilitate them the way traditionally I have facilitated my students, because so much of the work I do is completely one-on-one work. And, you know, it's fine if you have between, let's say, 10 and 20 people you work with, but if you have 400, it's a completely different thing. So I'm looking down the road going, there has to be something that could be done. I don't know how it would work, but there has to be something that could at least give people initial understandings and get them at least moving to a point where they could start to do some of that work on their own, and then later work out some way of facilitating them so that they could ask questions and get more direction. So I was like, okay, well, maybe that's what I need to do, and I'll put it all down in a book. So the book was written to be to take very deep teachings and very advanced understandings and make them as kind of simple as I can without losing you know, the value in the teaching. Um, and to put it just in a small book form, it's like 120 pages. It's not an overly large book. I didn't want it to be completely daunting to anybody who picked it up. So what the book does is it starts out with presenting some of the basic spiritual truths that any seeker has to be given in order to truly begin this conscious path. And they are absolute truths, capital T, right? So they're existing outside of this paradigm, but there are things that you have to be very well aware of, so that you can start to try to live by those truths as best you can here in this reality. And then after I present the truths, I break the book into sections on how to begin the journey of utilizing one's own life and life experiences to show you deeper into the unconscious mind. Because the unconscious mind is where the energy is trapped that is ultimately keeping you stuck here. And all of the stuff that's held in the unconscious, both on an individual and a collective level, has to come to the surface to be cleared. And in the clearing process, that's where dissolution takes place. We're watching it happen, of course, on a collective level, as all these things come up that the collective has a perfect, just a perfect example right now is everything that has happened in the arena of females who have undergone, abuses by males, especially males in positions of authority. And that all is coming forward. Of course it is, because it's something that collectively we have kind of looked the other way on for, thousands of years, right? And it's time for it to come to the surface. It's been collectively repressed and denied for so long, and now it's time for that level that was pushed into the unconscious to come forward, and for everybody now, like everybody, to look at it from a very conscious place and to see it for what it is. So that's what you do on your own individual basis in this work. Same thing. It's the same thing. Finding the aspects that, because of your belief system and judgments you hold in place, attachments that you have, desires that are in place, like all of that serves to create the lenses that you view through, and then the reality that you live out every day. So I can teach someone to walk through a very specific process of self-inquiry where it breaks it down in the most simple way to really be able to get in there and start to see what has defined you and limited you, right? And so that's what the book is meant to do. And I think what I'll have to do is follow up with like a workbook to go with the book, so that people, we tried to give people an opportunity to start doing that work out of the initial book, but I'm sure each one of those steps that we move people through could use more examples. For people who have never done the work, you're asking a lot of a mind that doesn't want to go there to all of a sudden push itself to go there. And it can be hard to even find it in your own life experience without receiving either direct guidance from someone like me, or through examples and finding where it resonates for you in the example that you see, right? And that's where group work will come into effect later. I believe that if I do this work with groups of people, just by being in the group and hearing other people's experiences, you do see yourself, like to go back to probably the beginning of this conversation, there's only one story that's playing itself out that we termed it the primal imprint. And so you have an opportunity now in groups of people where here I am telling my story, and you're viewing it with the understanding of how the mind functions. And now it's your story too, because you see that. And you see that it's all interconnected. Everybody's story is all interconnected with everybody else's. And so that's a very cool thing. So that's the point of the book. And I'm hoping it's all written and everything. I'm just hoping that, within the next couple of months, we can have it available. I prefer it that people would actually buy a physical copy so they could have it versus an ebook. But I understand the world is the way it is. People like their ebooks now, and that's fine too. So hopefully within a couple months, it would be available, at least for purchases in ebook, if not a physical copy too.
Okay. And it sounds like, you kind of have a vision of how things may fall into place for people after the book. Sounds like group work, maybe processing, sessions or classes, something like that.
Yeah, definitely. And so you referred to processing, and that is just the term that I was given to use when my own guide gave this system to me. But that's a word that's used in different ways too. So take it for what it's worth. It's what we call processing work. But I think we're going to have probably workshops where, the book is wonderful, but it's definitely not the same thing as, you've been to my processing workshops multiple times, and it's just, you can read it and that's great, but it's not the same thing as having the person who's kind of the expert on how you do this stuff standing there and explaining and talking to you and giving you examples and, interacting with you and all of that. So we'll definitely need to create, and as soon as I start getting feedback from people saying like, I want to learn that, then we'll definitely get more on the ball about creating those and getting them available. So maybe anyone who listens to this who something in there goes, oh, that's it. Leave us a comment on Facebook or YouTube or whatever, or you can email us at, I guess, info@kumaracenter.org would be fine, and just ask, is this something that could be available soon, or what would I have to do to take this class? But yeah, I think that's where it's headed. And then once people have done it, if they really want to continue working with me, then that would be a kind of a one-on-one conversation we'd have to have, because everyone's coming in at a different level and everybody wants a different thing. Some people want to go slow. Other people want to jump in head first and really be as, immersed in the teachings and immersed in their ability to connect and communicate with me as possible. Obviously, it takes an awful lot of time and energy for me to do this work. So that's definitely a personal conversation that we have to have. And but then going forward, we can do group sessions, which will be really, really beautiful. Larger group sessions where people can all come together. It gives them a chance to ask questions, to give some examples of maybe I was working this and this is where I got stuck and I don't kind of know where to go from here. And that gives me a chance to give them information and other people can hear it and go, oh my gosh, like I've had that happen. And now I see how Shusara like walked them through that, and it would help in the future for me when I do my work. So yeah, it'll be really good when we get it all going.
Yeah. And I will say, having done the processing and also the group sessions, very, very helpful. Very.
Oh yeah. You know, it's the thing. It's so, I always say like, I don't make a big deal out of stuff, because whenever you have someone who has a quote unquote product, like who wants to listen to them and believe them?
Yeah.
But I have both vantage points because I was a student before I was a teacher. I've walked this path. I mean, that's why I'm effective. I have walked this path. And, you know, I just, and I said this at last time we had our conversation, you know, I don't know how you could put a price on peace. How could you put a price on just peace of mind and infinite love? So from that space, you know, if I were able to speak directly to anybody who's watching this, I'm not saying my path is for you. What I am saying is that if you are really, truly a seeker and you desire with all of your beingness to wake up, right, and you desire freedom, there is no path that I know of that is straighter than this path. It will challenge everything that you've ever believed, and it will really push you to your personal limits. I promise you that. But there is no straighter path. So if that's what you're after, then definitely find a way to get a hold of me, because that is what I offer. That is what I offer.